Sideshow presents Get Super with Joshy G. Featuring today's special guest, Tait Fletcher. It's time to get super.
Hey everyone, what's going on? I'm Joshy G, and welcome to another episode of Get Super with Joshy G. And today I'm very excited because I have one of the oldest friends that I've had in Los Angeles on the show with me. The one, the only actor, stuntman, entrepreneur, creator, Mr. Tait Fletcher. Tait, thank you so much for joining us. First and foremost, how are you doing, my friend? Are you staying home, staying safe?
Oh yeah, I jumped right into it like it was a warm comforter this quarantine. I'm like, awesome. I don't need to see anybody and I could just kick back. It's been really nice for me. The whole experience of COVID, I mean, I feel like I'm in a psychological operation and I'm not sure who's running it, but God damn, there's a lot of twists and turns to this story that we're in.
Yeah, it's been great for some great reasons and then not so great for other reasons, but I'm glad you're staying home and I'm glad you're staying safe.
Yeah, man, I've been no threat of a cold, but I did have a couple tickles in my throat and I'd never been more terrified. And then I thought, Jesus Christ, they've really done a number on you. But yeah, no, healthy so far.
I'm the king of self-diagnosing. Don't go to Google and just type in tickle throat, because then the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I had this rare disease that I didn't know.
Hepatitis was here.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're looking, by the way, you're looking very fit, my friend. You're staying home.
Well, thanks, man. I've been, a lot of it, I think I coast on old gains. And then I've been real fortunate to be able to get back and pay attention to that in the last few months here. For a while, I got knocked out on set and I had tremendous post-concussive syndrome and all these things that kind of I was unwinding almost for the last year now, I guess. And it's been real illuminating, and it's nice to start feeling like getting in the flow again, even though the rest of the country's not ready to be in the flow. But, a lot of people I come across, there's all these concerns and all these unknowns about our future and where we're going and what's to happen. And for me, I just really, I'm open to getting those kinds of fears myself, but really I just try to stay in the action of what can I do right now that's going to impart some kind of advantage down the road, or how can I be helpful to somebody else? And if I get into those actions, man, the rumination about stuff that might not be happening anyway, it can kill me and devastate me. And so I just try to stay moving, focused on what I can do, what I can make a difference in,
And that's what's so great about you and what I've seen over the course of the years and in our friendship is you have a very positive mental attitude. You are PMA all the way. And that's what's so great, especially in these times where people may not be as positive in their thinking. You always have that great mental mindset. So I appreciate that you preach that as well as practice it. And you did mention earlier that you got knocked out on set, and I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm sure people watching are like, man, I know that guy from this, that, and the other, which we'll get into as far as some of your famous roles, some of your favorite roles, some of maybe your not favorite roles. But how was it like growing up as Tait Fletcher? Were you into a lot of things that you were into now? For example, were you into movies, pop culture? Did you love comic books, action figures? Like, what were some of the things that Tait Fletcher loved growing up?
Yeah, I look at this beautiful Boba Fett behind me, and that came from y'all. And I remember when I was a little kid and we went to a little store on the north side of Alpena, Michigan, and they had the Millennium Falcon. And they had, R2-D2, and they had Obi-Wan, and those were kind of the first times I was like, whoa, because that was like the world changed, right? Was before that there was little wooden things called Weeble Wobbles and stuff like, there was like you can play jacks, and so this whole new world that George Lucas opened up for me, that really opened my eyes into those things, and I'd get so lost in the stories that I didn't really even put together that actors were a job necessarily until Harrison Ford was also Indiana Jones. And I was like, oh, Han Solo's over here also.
Yeah.
I was jazzed about that and jazzed about being outside. We'd like to go and try to replicate all these things. So it's kind of, you're trying to raise yourself as a kid. But I kind of put away any ideas that any of that would be something that I would do. until years later. And then my life kind of evolved into this thing. Like as a kid, I grew up playing hockey.
Big hockey fan.
Yeah, man. Loved it. Had my heart broken when I found out that not all the Detroit Red Wings were from Detroit. And then they would trade people and people talk about team loyalty. And I go, you guys got your values fucked up. And then I didn't really look back at team sports really much again after that. And then when I had the opportunity to start wrestling and fights were coming available, cage fights were just starting, I was like, man, that looks like something I'd like to test myself at. And kind of all these things were like, you know, how do I find a deeper, I don't know if it was like searching for God, but like I was searching for meaning and truth ever since I was a little kid. And so I'd read books on religion. I'd read a lot of mythology. I'd try to parse out and understand this crazy, you know, wonderful amusement park that we all live in.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, as you grow up, and we've talked about this on past shows with different people, whether they be wrestlers, producers, etc. Kids, especially guys, they hold on to their childhood and they love their toys and they love their things that they grew up with, whether it be pop culture related movies, TV, cartoons, whatever. And they want to bring that into their adult life and they don't want to let that go. And it seemed like, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong, that it served its purpose, but as you got into your adulthood, you decided to put those things away and focus more so on hockey and religion and trying to figure out the world. Is that correct?
Well,
or did you still have those like, oh man, I really miss, you know, being a kid and having that, you know, that sense of wonder?
I guess I've maintained that childlike mind maybe is what it's been. And my body doesn't always agree with what my mind wants to get done anymore. But that's kind of, you know, where I went. I mean, I was, you know, my story is rich with alcoholism in my early years, you know, and so I spent a lot of time in the bottom of a bottle from, I don't know, steadily daily from when I was 16, I guess, on until like 21 or something. I ended up in a bank robbery and I ended up in a federal joint for a little while until we sorted that out. And I got released after all the cases dropped. And then I cleaned up my life and I got sober. And from that point on, it was like, it's another arc of my life where, you know, and suicidal. And I mean, just all the things, right? All the things that to contend with that a lot of people do. It's nothing special. It's just different wallpaper.
Yeah.
But, you know, what was I to do in this position and what is life for and what's my life for? And I'm a valueless, purposeless guy at that point. And I thought there's just not a lot out there for me. I'm a loser and that's how it's going to probably go. And then when I started, the first time I really started, you know, I saw a great meme the other day. That a guy goes, there's the biggest bag waiting at the end of your consistency. Mm-hmm. And when I started to get consistent, you know, I started training jiu-jitsu a lot and I started wrestling and I started doing kickboxing and that stuff became my life. And then competition became my life. And I started reaching for maybe higher goals, I guess. And then I got, you know, lucky, I guess. And I got into a movie that these guys had come in. I was working at a nightclub, you know, because I've got the skills I've got, you know, I'm what I thought was a tough guy from the street, which until I really started jiu-jitsu, I had no idea how tough I was not.
Exactly. Right.
But yeah, so at any rate, I started doing the jobs that I could do. You know, I'm digging ditches, hanging drywall, throwing people out of nightclubs. And these guys came into my nightclub and it was Master P and his boys. And they go, hey, we need some dudes for this film. And so I went and that's how I got a SAG card. And I'm just running this nightclub and I end up in this movie for a month. And that was cool. And then, you know, they were like, well, we wanted you to stick around, you know, maybe come out to Hollywood. I've got a place you can stay. I live in the Valley. You can stay in my guest house. This is what the stunt coordinator is telling me. And I was like, that seems unrealistic. I'm just doing this one thing. I'm training, da-da-da. Then I met you a couple years later.
Yeah.
On The Longest Yard. But that was not something I was chasing at that time. I did that one movie. I did a commercial for, I don't know, Nissan or Toyota or something. And I was like, wow, man, I had no idea they paid money like that and residuals. I had no idea about any of it. And so I was just fighting, man. And then this idea came up and my girlfriend's like, hey, you should go down and do this Longest Yard thing. And then that's where we'd met. And that kind of was the beginning of my quest out into Los Angeles. I don't know, regional fighter at that time, undefeated. And I was like, well, I've kind of exhausted what was here. Let's go on. And I guess that's been the story of my life is not really looking back onto my childhood or glory days or those fight days or anything like that. Because when I turn the page on yesterday, that is so dead to me that it has zero interest.
Yeah.
To ruminate there robs me of tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
To some degree. And so I just really try to stay focused on like, what's the next thing that we can do? What's the next incarnation of me, as it were, you know, where do I want to develop myself next? And I think that's been the number one thing. You know, I saw a lot of my friends get lost in like, I need to go to school. I need to get this degree. I need to do this. And that becomes like a storm that they get through. And then when they're 33, they go, holy shit, how did I end up here? I'm not even sure I chose this, you know?
Yeah.
And I just didn't want that. I didn't want to explore that very much. I wanted to explore, you know, the workings of my heart and my spirit and who I wanted to become and what I was afraid to face up to. And I wanted to learn how to have the courage to face it anyway. Things like that became highly important to me, and they seem like they don't have any material world significance. And I got to tell you, it's made all the difference.
So I don't mean to sound cliche, but would you say that MMA or fighting or your venture into jiu-jitsu pretty much saved your life in some way, shape, or form, or at least steered you in the right direction?
No, it's 100%. It built on me ideas of consistency, persistence, discipline, things that were like horrible words to me. I didn't want to hear any of that. Like discipline, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of accountability. No, thank you. I want to be able to make a mess in life and keep on walking. And it wasn't until I really developed this sense of a stringent responsibility unto myself, accountability, leaving the world better than I found it, no matter what room I walk into. I'm trying to be conscious of that all the time. My life fucking got extremely better. I had no idea, you know, when I started looking out to make everybody else's experience in life better, my life gained shine. My life was able to grow. I was able to feel purposeful. And that's I think one of the biggest things about suicidal ideations, things like that, is like this, you know, I've never felt as crummy as when I felt purposeless in my life, you know? So I just try to be useful. And then I try to go, how can I get useful in another realm and something that I'm not accustomed to? Because there's something about that uncomfortability of life that's important to sit in. And so when I see those things that are uncomfortable, I go, I'm not going to mess with that. And then I go, okay, I got to sit in that and I got to adopt it and I've got to see what that's like.
But that's the great thing about your story is that, you know, a lot of people, when they hear stories about Hollywood, stuntmen, wrestlers, producers, whatever the case may be, they all think it's sunshine and rainbows. And not only is it a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of, you know, giant hurdles that you kind of have to get over or that you have to work through to accomplish the greater good. You know, your story is a perfect example of that. Like, it didn't start off great, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, with your hard work, your determination, your ability to not want to go back to the way things were, has put you in a place where you are today. And I think that that's very profound. And the fact that people can kind of look up to that. And again, speaking of that positive mental attitude, you know, you are a great example of PMA. If you put your mind to something and you stay positive, great things will come of it, you know?
Yeah. That sounds great. And it sounds more virtuous from where you're sitting. For me, it's like, because I think about it and I go, how did you get, you know, people are like, how'd you get through that? And it's like, all of it is like, how do you get through the turkey dinner? It's like one bite at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I heard this guy talk and somebody was calling him a hero, and he's definitely a hero, but he disagreed, of course, the way heroes do. And he says, being heroic is a choice. And it's a choice that comes up in moments. It's not something that somebody is. Mm-hmm. You make that choice every time you stand up for the little guy. You make that choice every time you do the unpopular thing, even if it's the right thing. You know, like you do, you can make these choices in your life in a variety of ways to be a hero. And I think it's really important like that, because I think it's easy to get bogged down into the mud of life and not to feel like you've got agency or that you've got power to get yourself out of these places. But what I found is like, you know, this positive mental attitude, you call it, is like, it's me putting it into low gear so I'm not spinning the tires, and so I can get traction and get up out of this onto the road again and get into the spirit of life with the rest of y'all. Because otherwise I'm mired down in my own problems, my own issues, And when I look out and I try to be helpful other places, all of my personal bullshit, it dies in neglect. They're not even problems anymore. And so I kind of, I do it just for my own self-wellness, just to keep the pistol out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that you're able to articulate that in a great way for people that may be having those kind of problems or issues. They could feel like they're not alone, and here's a guy that totally is, on the outside looking in, man, this guy's in everything. He's in Westworld. He's in, Jurassic World. He's in, all these movies. He's got it made, but it took a long road to get there. And it's still a long road of work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, what road do you choose? I remember I was sitting next to a guy on a plane, and he was a dude. I blank on his name right now, but he was the bartender in True Blood. And we're on our way out to Atlanta. I was on some show. He was on a show. And I thought, man, how great. You're in every episode of True Blood. Like, you're set. You're golden. And he looked at me like I was insane. Because I was like, you're a known actor now. You've got a rate. You've got, there's all these things that I'm seeing, right? And he goes, dude, everybody's looking for the next job. That none of that yesterday. And I go, oh, still yesterday doesn't mean much about today. Yeah. I mean, it informs me of how able I'm going to do the job today if I practiced well yesterday. But like, as far as like, you're still hustling. Harrison Ford's looking for his next job, Tate. You know what I mean? I've got to think about that. And then I also got to think about that, like, those are the little things, like what we do in that way. I mean, what I do is wallpaper. It's like, the entertainment world, I think, is a powerful thing. And I think it's a huge voice. And I think we can use it better. And I think all that's important. But none of that's as important as how I'm treating people in my day-to-day life or how I show up for my family. These things are that look, and I say that only because I think that it looks magical to be on TV sometimes. Yeah. And it's like, there's a mystification of it. And it's like, most people are just trying to do that's their job, but their whole life is much more significant than that. And and you look at some of the ways that people are using that, and it's really awe-inspiring, and I don't ever want to be bogged up in like I am what I do, what's important to me is much more than what I do for a living, I suppose,
Yeah. And, we kind of, or at least I saw that when we were on set together on Longest Yard. I saw that you didn't look down upon anybody. You were always eager to learn. Now, once Longest Yard was said and done, you moved on to a couple of other things, and then you had a small stint on The Ultimate Fighter, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if I did much. I just took fights after that. I mean, during that time, and it was like Ivan Salaberry and Bob Sapp were on that show with us, and so we would train a lot. And then I started training with those guys in LA. That's where I met Eddie Bravo. I met Eddie before at tournaments, but that's when I started training from him, and he became my teacher at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu.
Who else was on that show besides Bob? Who's Bob's trainer? I always forget his name.
Maurice Smith.
Maurice. I made the
championship kickboxer out of Seattle. Yep.
Yeah. I made the fatal mistake of asking Maurice to teach me how to rear naked choke somebody. So he did, and he, of course, when you show somebody, he did the whole thing, and I was like, oh my God, did I make you tap out? So I went around Pro Wrestling Josh, telling everybody I made Maurice Smith tapped out. Big mistake. Because he caught me when I was not looking once, and I literally thought it was the end of me. And he taught me a very valuable lesson. So,
powerful man. Yeah, great.
You wouldn't think of it when you see him. You're like, oh, this is an old timer, but man, he was the coolest. And he taught me a lesson in the sense that, like, hey, don't ever do that again. Show me respect. But then, he taught me a very valuable lesson when it came to
that. He's a real elder, I really admire him a lot, and I owe him a lot of gratitude, man. What a great dude.
So after The Ultimate Fighter, what was your next big, because you did like Jonah Hex, you did, Fright Night, but what was your big, if you want to call it a breakthrough role where everybody was like, oh, we saw you in that. Like, what was your big kind of
first thing was The Ultimate Fighter for me. I mean, I was down when that came out. I was like, it was weird because I would be on we went down because Rogan wanted to get a sleeve. And so we went down to San Diego, me and him and Eddie, and they're getting tattooed. And I'm walking down the street, and a dude walks by me and he goes, hey, you were in my house last night. And I look, I was like,
What?
I go, what do you, and I went back and I told Joe this experience, and we were out having lunch later, and then somebody comes and they touch my face. They're like, dude, you were just, and I was like, why are you touching my face? And it's the weirdest thing. And I had no idea. And Joe was like, yeah, dude, it's like, it's a magic trick. You get on TV and people trip out. You were in your living room or in their living room with them, and you don't know, like, they know you in a different way. And I thought, wow, this is a crazy dimension to be in right now, you know? And I don't know, you know, when I was in that house, I was just thinking about fighting. You know, all these things were coming in my head. I turned 35 years old when I was in the Ultimate Fighter house.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
You know, I was an old timer, and I was trying to hide it, right? I'm being, you know, like all the, anyways, what a trip. The big role, I don't know, the big
because I remember your role in Breaking Bad is the one where I was like, holy shit, that's Tait. I know that guy. I mean, I know you've done stuff before, but where did you? I guess what I'm asking is like, after what role were you most noticed besides obviously the Ultimate Fighter?
I don't know, probably Breaking Bad was huge because there was a lot of press around it. I ended up with a SAG award out of it and got to go to the SAG awards and all that. And it was a fantastic experience. So that was probably the biggest like Hollywood thing that I've done. I think probably the role I'm maybe most proud of, I guess, is that opening scene in The Mandalorian. In the bar. And that was just last year or whatever. We got another thing coming out with Jamie Foxx called Power.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah, it comes out in a little bit. But you know, everything in that realm offers a different advantage or maybe confident. It's like you're climbing rungs of a ladder, you know, and can you carry the space? Can you hold the space? A lot of that being on film is like, to be a supporting actor or something like that, or to be a background stunt player, it's like, it's a lot to contend with. Like, I've got to be here and nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody's going to make allowances for you. They don't want to wait for you a primary actor, whatever we can do for you. We're going to make sure that, you know, you're not even walking on dirt. We'll carry you and levitate. Like, it's like that. Everybody else, it's the craziest cast system ever.
Yeah.
And so in that position, you know, but the thing that those higher level actors have to do, which is very difficult, is you got to carry all the energy for this whole scene. You got to, it's about you, and to have a focal point about you, and to be the one that has to garner the interest of the audience and carry that it's a lot to carry. And if you're not accustomed to carrying smaller loads, you're going to get crushed under that one perhaps. So I think that it's like learning how to carry weight. It's like you make it look easy. You get under 400 pounds and you squat it 4 or 5 times, and somebody looks at that and go, cool. And they get under that and they haven't trained and they go and sink right to the floor. I mean,
I hope you're talking about me, because I'm like, have I ever squatted 400 pounds? No,
I know you haven't,
but I hope I made it look easy.
You know what I mean, though? It's we can have these untrained bodies and have the delusion. I mean, I've had so many guys come into my jiu-jitsu school that are like, dude, I've been watching the UFC and I think I got something. Come on the mats and let's find out, you know?
But I think that's every profession, right? Like, I've traveled the world with professional wrestlers. I've seen guys come up to them like, oh man, it's easy. I can do what you do. One of my clients / friends, Seth Rollins, he has a wrestling school, and I've seen kids come in there spending all their money, think that they can do what they do, and they've quit within 5 minutes. You know, same thing with
couldn't imagine
with CrossFit or functional fitness, right? Same thing. People come into gyms like, oh, I'm going to go to the games, and then they obviously can't even last the workout. So yeah, I think that comes with every profession. People think that things come easy when in reality,
I think that wrestling is the most deceiving, maybe.
Yeah,
because I mean, those guys are having to perform multiple times a week. And there's not an off season. It's not like, I mean, they're going, and the wear and tear on the bodies. I just got such a high regard for that. I mean, that's what I notice more, where I sit and I go, I know what the cost is. And I know, and not only that, but like a guy that chooses that road, one of the roads that we've chosen, and you forgo a lot of things that other people hold on to as their security. You forgo a lot of family stuff. You forgo being married, having kids, not all of it, but like there's sacrifices and because there's only so much. It's like, if you get to be where you can run really fast, your deadlift is shitty. If you get a really great deadlift, you run like shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like those things are what go in. So, and in variances, you can parse that to how you want it to where it works for your life. But like, that's the cost. And I look at that, the cost, not just physically to the bodies, but like, there's a perseverance that people endure in these kinds of positions, which is remarkable. It's a remarkable part of the human spirit that I thought I didn't know was a developmental kind of issue, that you could encourage it and strengthen it. And also, it's not forever, right? All these things, all the things I've done have had, that's the bittersweet part of it, fighting or stunt work or whatever. It's got a end date on it, right? There's expiration dates on how well this thing's going to work anymore.
Let's be honest, Tate. I could watch you get into fights with, John Wick or The Rock or, Denzel Washington or the Mandalorian. I could watch you getting into fights with them all the time. Now, we actually had Sala Baker, your fellow colleague, on the show, and we talked a little bit about your fight with Denzel on The Equalizer. He said that was probably his career highlight. Did you have a career highlight where you looked across the set and you're like, man, I got to square up with X, Y, and Z? Was there a person or a scene that you were super, super stoked about? And if so, which one is that and why?
Yeah, man. Well, one of the first things was, I was new in the film business kind of, and I got asked to work this scene in Avengers, in the first Avengers. And so it's, that's a heavy, that's the biggest of big there is. I mean, I'm like, holy shit. And then I'm looking at these people that are, like Heidi Moneymaker, Tunaway Reed. Like, you got these people that are the upper echelon of stunt performers in the world. Heidi is Black Widow. Tunaway is Dwayne, and et cetera, right? And I'm with heroes, and I'm looking and I'm going, God, I wonder what they're talking about over there. I sure would like to be like, it's like this whole thing about like, I'm in this group, but I'm not in this group. And then it's just like everything else, man, be helpful. And like, and I just go, oh, that's the same rule everywhere. No matter where you are, be as helpful as you can. Hey, anybody need water? Where can I be useful? Like, and that kind of just emboldened that. As far as being on set for me, I mean, having Jon Favreau direct me is a high point, looking at like that kind of exposure. It's like, you're with people that look at life in a very different perspective. And when I can open my mind to what somebody else's perspective is, I get a lot of growth out of that. I get a lot of output out of that. My favorite fight was against Denzel, probably. I mean, I think that was an epic fight. I think it was the best fight of a few years. I think that there was, it should have been, it was award worthy, and the guys that put it together are fucking excellent martial artists. I was just lucky enough to be able to play the role, and that they're the joystick controllers and I'm just doing the things. But to work with Denzel, a guy of that caliber, is, I mean, just in the way he carries himself and the way he gets the job done is pretty phenomenal. You just look at somebody that's been in mastery for 30, 40 years of their craft. Jesus Christ, man. Just the energy is different around those kinds of people, And then to work, to work with to work with Keanu Reeves is like, there's nobody that works harder than him. He's in there dripping sweat, 4 a.m, throwing guys like, and he's doing everything that he can. He's a tremendous athlete. To work with that kind of work ethic. The work ethic never stops. It's the thing. These guys, these entrepreneurs, I've got this little company. I don't know if you heard of us. It's called Caveman Coffee.
Delicious coffee. Big coffee connoisseur.
But people will ask me because they go, oh, you're an entrepreneur or whatever. And a reluctant entrepreneur. I wanted to have cool shit in the market that wasn't there or whatever. And I did this thing. I love coffee, blah, 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 whatever. But people are like, hey, man, they think the goal is to be an entrepreneur. And I'm not sure that that's the right way to look at it. I was in love with a thing and I wanted to share that thing. And then that became a thing. But if I had not loved that thing, we wouldn't be here 7 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to love whatever your widget is that you want to get in the market, man, you better fall in love with that son of a bitch, because it'll get boring. It'll be a nag. It'll be the last thing you want to look at in the morning unless you have the correct perspective about it. And if you don't really love that thing, you're not going to be able to have, who else is going to love it if you don't, right? And so, that thing about consistency, about not quitting, about seeing it to the end, I just feel like those are spiritual principles that that get shit on a lot. A lot of times we don't have we think, oh, I'll go to the next shiny thing thinking that's going to be better. It's like, if you never know how to complete something, you're going to be dog shit useless your whole life.
Yeah.
Oh, did you not get interested? Were you not curious anymore? Did you not have the motivation? Good luck. You're making it easy for me to win. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have the motivation either. You know what I do? I go anyway. That's the rule, right? You do it anyway. So in that, I think has been lucky, because I never knew the right way to do life. I always thought everybody else had a book. You're going to go be a lawyer, be an engineer, this, that, da, da, da. And I just go, I'm going to do what I'm in love with.
Yeah.
And other things that I'm not in love with, I'm going to avoid those. I'm going to do them minimally, unless they're really useful for others. Then I'll do it, but I'm not going to make it my life.
Now, when did the beard make an appearance? Because I remember on the set of The Longest Yard, there was zero beard.
No, clean shaven.
Clean shaven.
I mean, maybe no body hair, maybe just eyelashes, you know?
Maybe. We were both very follically challenged, or at least.
Well, and that was the kind of Steve Austin, Goldberg. That was kind of the
Bob Sapp.
Hey, Bob Sapp. Everybody was, challenged.
When did the beard? When were you motivated, if you will?
Lone Ranger.
To grow a beard?
Lone Ranger. Tom Harper says, I need you to put on as much facial hair as you can in the next month or whatever. Okay. I never thought about it before. So it grew out, and I left it. And then the next show, I think, was maybe Two Guns. I went on after that, another Denzel show, which was great. Mark Wahlberg and Denzel. And then it just stayed. I just kept working. I ended up shaving it once in, I don't know, 2017 or 18.
I remember that. I remember going, who's this guy on my Instagram feed?
That's right.
No, that's Tait.
That's right.
That's Tait. What happened?
Well,
it wasn't a bet.
My mama was in love. She's in love with Ram Dass. And my friend Duncan Trussell is friends with Ram Dass. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to this thing out in Maui that Ram Dass is putting on, this spiritual retreat. And I go, solid, man. I'm going to go. I'm going to take my mom. And so my mom came out to LA, and going to go have dinner with her. Lacey takes her out, sits, waits, have dinner. And I go home, and I get my knife from Half Face Blades, my friend's company, Andrew, and I shave everything down, and then I cut everything, hack it all off. I go into the restaurant, and I open the door. My mom's there to the left, and she looks back at her food. She looks back, and she falls into tears. And it's just like she hadn't seen my face in a while. And so that was the last time I shaved it, really, I guess, was at that time. And then, it's just easier.
Yeah, I will say you're a good-looking man with a shaved face. If I were to do that, you would think that Charlie Brown.
I know you already, you handsome son of a bitch. You're a liar.
You would think Charlie Brown was interviewing you. Let's get to what I'm sure most of the people are very interested in, the Mandalorian. You not only play one character, you play two characters, one of them being Paz Vizsla. And how cool was that to not only play most people would kill to be on that set and be an extra, or to be a part of just one particular character, but you got to play two really cool characters. Do you mind getting into that and explaining to us how that all kind of came about?
Well, I went into an audition, and if you've never been in an audition, the process is you come in, you do the work, they send you a couple pages of stuff, and then you go in and you present your work. You present your work as this character, and you do it 1,000 times. And maybe there's 2 times that you get a job out of 1,000.
Yeah.
Like it's a job of failures, right? You have to think about it. It's less odds than baseball. You think if you get 30% of anything in life, you suck. That's a failure. If you're a baseball player and you hit 35% of the time, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that kind of thing. And I always admired baseball players because I thought, to live with that much failure, lack of connection with the ball, whatever it is, and to still go out there and be able to perform at 100% and do well, it's phenomenal to me. It's such a psychic damage to not succeed, and then to go and again and again and again, and maybe 7 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times you're going to fail. And that still doesn't mean that you're not a winner. And what a great mindset that is, right? So anyway, auditioning's like that. And I just throw it away. I go in, I do the work, and then, man, I'm happy with the way I look at it, the way I have to formulate it in my mind. I'm just happy to have the opportunity to present some piece. Like, if I can be in the practice of my craft I'm grateful for that. So that's kind of how I looked at it. I go in and I see, the regular, I see a lot of the same guys in auditions, as you can imagine. And I read this role that's all in English, not in Huttese. And I get a call back 2 days later. And they said, hey, they love you for this role. And I was like, oh, awesome. I don't know I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that. And then they said, but this other character, it said Jon Favreau wants you. And I go, Jon Favreau saw my audition. And you go, yeah, they want you to play this other part. So you've got to go out to this design house out in the valley. So I go out. I said, okay, cool. And I go out and I look, and it's like the modern warfare Call of Duty guys are rappelling out of the ceiling. Darth Vader is hauling Chewie, who's in handcuffs with stormtroopers behind him, like 9 foot tall Darth Vader, like whole scenes. There's guys carving out feet. The Shape of Water guy is there. I'm in this museum workhouse art space, which is just like, oh my God. And then I go back in this room. They say, put on this Under Armour, and we're going to lock your bag over here. I go, okay, cool. And it wasn't until they come in, they go, do you know what you're doing? And I go, no. And they're just measuring all parts of my body, everywhere, right? Like, how far is this to here? How, like, whatever. And then they bring in this flat black, which I think is the sexiest color of a helmet of Boba Fett. And they go, this is the most important part, that you fit this helmet. So then I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to play one of these characters. I thought, how badass. I get to be a Mandalorian,
Yeah.
And I didn't have any idea until later what that really entailed. But so that's all custom fit to me. I'm this character. And then when I found out really what a huge deal it was the first day I came out on set to reveal this character. Everybody from Disney is there. Their whole marketing, everybody. And we do a whole extra photo shoot and all that. And it's remarkable. I mean, and just walking onto that set was remarkable. The way it's set up, the technology that they're using. I've never
the virtual set, right?
Yeah, I'd never been in. I mean, nobody had ever been there. It was brand new. Like nobody had done any of that kind of stuff before. So that was all pretty heavy. And that was great. And that's what I'm most like. People love that character, Paz Vizsla, which I love. I love playing. Favreau ended up doing a voiceover on it, and because he was the heavy Mando in the animated series, he did a voice. We wanted to do that voice for this also. And then, but that first part, man, that first day when I say about carrying a scene, when I'm that alpha trawler in the bar scene, and Mando comes in and like, you spilled my drink and all that, to have that whole scene be, it's relying on you not being like, let's do this,
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. I feel like it was one of those times when I leveled up,
Well, I got to say, watching that as a fan, obviously, it really sets the tone for the series. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian is not going to take any kind of crap from anybody. That's number one. Number two, watching that scene as your friend, you're like, oh man, this is so rad. Like, I've seen Tait in a lot of things, not everything, I'll be honest, but I've seen you in a lot of things. And this is really cool to see him.
A lot of them, you got to look fast.
Yeah. And then, 2-3 episodes later, you see the roll of the credits and you see Tait Fletcher. And I'm like, oh my God, he was not only in one scene, but two. And the really cool, intriguing part of it, in all of this is, for the most part, not that you're typecasted, but it seems like you're typecasted. You are the villain. You are the heel. You're the henchman. You're the bad guy. This is the first time that at least I can remember where you actually get to play a heroic character. You get to play a hero. You get to play a good guy, if you will.
That's true.
So that's also really kind of cool, both to watch as a fan and a friend of yours. So
I got to say, Josh, it was cool for me too. I mean, that was one of the things. I mean, yeah, it was nice, man. It was really and in that whole thing about typecast and all that, I've been hearing that phrase since I was a little boy. And whatever gets you to the party, right? It's kind of in the beginning. And then when I look at it now and I look at the arc of careers and what that is, it pushes me to be deeper in the creation. Because if I'm not in the creation, I'm just the cog that looks like it fits easiest to this wheel or this machinery or whatever. And that's usually, if you want the best badass assassin motherfucker around, that's me. and I get put in that role. But if I want to be the professor that was like the guy that the kids looked up to, and that he was the strong, single-purposed guy that, you know, was the safe place, like I don't get that part, right? And so unless I write that,
yeah.
So whatever it is, I mean, I look at that and what the truth is in Hollywood, and everybody looks about how to get up and this and that, and I just look and I go, oh yeah, dummy. There's no Vin Diesel, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Kenny Powers, that, like all these guys wrote themselves into how, I mean, all of them, everybody. And if you don't, Mindy Kaling, if you don't have that kind of a drive, yeah, you're just another piece. And so that's the next thing I'm looking at is writing and creating, and Jardine's got a couple scripts together that we're putting together. And so, yeah, we're pretty excited about where things are going right now. And this COVID situation has gone, it's given me enough of a respite from work and from being out to go, okay, if somebody's going to control whether the tap is on or off, about whether you can make money or not, or whether you can participate in life, how do I get more agency over that tap? How can I, and if I'm in the creation of it, then I'm in charge of it. I produce it, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. I think another aspect to your success, and maybe you haven't thought about this before, but being a part of the Mandalorian, you get to now be a collectible, whether it be an action figure, whether it be a 6 scale like the one behind you. You are now ingrained in pop culture and collector lore, where the fact that people will have a mini version of Tait in their display case or on their entertainment center or whatever the case.
Bobbleheads.
Yeah, that's got to be kind of cool, right?
It's yeah, it's cool. It's like getting a stripe on your belt when you're in jiu-jitsu, right? It's like it's like, oh, and then you know, I've got a friend that was on a Coca-Cola can, and things, you know, all those kinds of things. It's like, yeah, it's super cool. And I just got to remember, I don't get too congratulatory, because I'm like, what's next? What's next? Because you can't eat off yesterday's food. You know, you can't breathe yesterday's air. What's next? And it's
You're
hard
absolutely
for
right.
me.
But I just want you to remember, you can bask in it a little bit, because I think that is kind of cool. And there is a mini Tait out there that's going to a store very similar to you, that is looking on the shelf and seeing your figure on there, or looking on the Sideshow Collectibles site and seeing your Mandalorian 6 scale and being like, oh man, that is so cool. I want to be like this person. Just very similar to how you looked at your Boba Fett or your Han Solo or your Millennium Falcon. So there, in a way, yes, you're inspiring people with your words and your philosophies, but also just in
I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that perspective, because I don't know if I'm almost even scared to look at it too much. I mean, to you know what I mean? It's like, and I hear guys talk about it. They're like, you know, I wish I would have smelled it a little more while I was in the space. You know, I hear, like, there's Ali talks about that a lot, right? Like he wishes that he'd have taken, but it's hard to know when you're right in something, what the magnitude of that thing is, you know. It's and does it matter? But thank you. Yeah.
Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm just saying, like, from someone who, you know, is a Star Wars fan, for someone who is your friend, from someone who is a pop culture nerd, to see all of those things kind of encompass in your life, and to see that it has brought you tremendous success, that's really cool. So yes, I have signed up to get one of your very first.
I got to talk to you more. I love this.
Yeah. So before we let you go, because I know you got to go, I know you are a very busy man. There's one question that I usually ask every guest. Obviously, I'm a big pro wrestling fan. Who knew, right? If you were to book your WrestleMania main event, pop culture main event, what would it be and why? For example, it could be anything from The Mandalorian versus Wolverine. It could be Jabba the Hutt versus E Honda from Street Fighter. It could be anything that you want. You name it, you book it. Will it be? And obviously, who wins? Who goes over?
Man,
I like anything, literally anything.
I like the idea of the Mandalorian and John Wick, except I feel like that's a standoff, because I feel like the Mandalorian is kind of like a Western that's John Wick in the Old West in the future.
Oh, okay.
They might just nullify each other. I'm not sure.
So you don't have a winner. You just want to see him go at it.
I feel like it's just going to be a technical battle, and we'll see who has better endurance, probably.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. That's a great response and answer. Tait, buddy, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, if you don't already, please follow Tait on Instagram. Please follow Caveman Coffee. And if you see Tait in any one of those movies, be like me and say, hey, there's Tait. Movies, TV shows, music videos, whatever the case may be.
And watch out for us. We're coming out on Power on Netflix, I think, in the next couple weeks here. Jamie Foxx film.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? He's in that
Joseph
too?
Gordon-Levitt, beautiful act. I mean, goddamn, working with those guys. And that's a whole nother episode. You got to ask me back. We'll do the workout and do the whole thing.
Hey, I could talk to you for hours upon hours, man.
I love it. Anytime,
I appreciate the time. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Tait. Make sure that you guys stay in Sideshow. But most importantly, don't forget to let your geek side show. See you guys later. Hey guys, so Tait didn't have time to do a workout with us after that awesome interview, but don't worry, Jen and I are gonna show you some fun movements that you can do at home with this really cool workout. Hey guys, what's going on? Joshy G, Jen Houston, and we are here at Rising Wave Athletics in El Segundo, and we are going to tell you about today's Get Super workout. All right, it is an EMOM, which basically means every minute on the minute you are going to complete the following: 6 burpees and 8 sit-ups, all within that minute. Now, of course, whatever's left in that minute, you get to rest, and you're gonna do that 7 more times. So 8 rounds total. All right, let's get after it, shall we? All right, the first movement in this EMOM is a burpee. So Jen is gonna demonstrate the dreaded burpee. You're basically gonna fall straight to the ground. You're gonna let those quads and your chest touch the floor, and then you're going to jump up and clap. That is 1 rep. Let's see a couple more of those, Jen. Now, if you need a scaled version, Jen's gonna show you that as well. You're gonna walk your feet back, fall to the ground, walk your feet forward, jump, and clap. And now the third scaled option, it's called an athletic burpee, or a no push-up burpee, or a NURPee. You're just gonna throw your feet back, throw your feet forward, jump and clap. One more time, Jen. We're looking for that magic number of 6. The next movement in this EMOM, every minute on the minute, is 8 sit-ups. So the way I suggest doing sit-ups is butterfly style, so your feet are gonna go together, or sole to sole, as Jen is doing. You're gonna lay all the way back. You're gonna touch the floor behind you, and then you're gonna shoot up and try to touch your toes. That is considered 1 rep. Now we're looking for 8. If you can't sit all the way up, that's totally fine. Crunches are acceptable. We're looking for 8 reps when it comes to those as well. So there you have it, an EMOM that's only 8 minutes long. It'll probably make you work for about 40 seconds, 40 to 45 seconds. Got about 15 seconds rest, which again isn't a lot, but we want you to keep moving. Now remember, you can do these workouts anywhere, including your living room, garage, beach, front yard, backyard. All we want you to do is keep moving and moving fast for 8 solid minutes. Nice job, Jen. Thanks for being such a wonderful demo person. Hopefully you guys love it at home. Don't forget to stay in Sideshow, but most importantly, don't forget to let your geek side show. And get super, right, Jen? She's already super, but you get it. You get it. Look at those things. Look at them.
Hey, did you like that video? Be sure to subscribe by clicking the S icon on your screen and click that bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. If you'd like more info on the items featured in this video, click the link provided under Product Info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.